Good afternoon from the Kidnapster saga. Today I've got several topics pertaining to everything seems to be based around motive and method. The M&Ms, the M&M Marks, motive and method. Why and how. And the why pertains to I've got a lot of synchronicity as to why, what the utilization is, whether it being created in some aspect in order to be manipulated or reality of it. Regardless, either way, there should be a method of me gaining independence in order to be competent, in order to handle responsibly the specifics of my case. But incompetence seems to be a tool or weapon as far as that's part of the method. Incompetence and locks and barriers, regardless of the cost of what's really going on. And one of the big plays seems to be reverence and empathy. And they want to the mob, various factions of the mob who benefit from my captivity or my inability to protect myself. The vulnerability, the big B. B is a huge lock. B, in my estimation, victim, vulnerable victim. That's what the V stands for me. For other people, it's a pass card key to access assets. And lieu of lieu, in my theoretical estimation, my upgraded leapfrog rank that they're utilizing. That's why they're crawling over me in order to access these pools of assets. Then they figure ways. It's all about, we'll see, there's math and then there's just creative math. There seems to be a misnomer in the utilization of math as a, well, it's this miracle. It really is. It's Good Will Hunting when he was able to solve equations. It wasn't because was it because he was smart or because of the variables that he had access to and only he had access to it based upon who he was. Therefore, it's like if you can fill in with this miracle exponent or variable into an equation, the fact that it will make things equal, seemingly, based upon values, global values, then the math seems really easy. That's kind of what is going on here. I am used as a miracle variable exponent to justify math, even though the math is suspect. I keep saying I want to audit the values. I want to audit the values of their math exponents and their variables. Their variables are suspect in my estimation based upon illicit, malicious intent because, well, that's where it goes back into the notion of the ritual sacrifice being cannibalism for the most part. It's cannibalism and ritual sacrifice, therefore able to utilize the power. But the addiction of is a bad gamble in my estimation. You really didn't learn a lot, and it's to value the system of education with such high regards while using such ill-gotten variables seemingly is an oxymoron contradiction. So therefore, I think it's invalid. So making me accessible, but be vulnerable, seems to be, and what I question is, and this is what I never believed. That's why I was always kind of like just walking through life seeming dumbfounded, just walking into these arrows and traps that I didn't think were these hacks, because it's so far-fetched to think that you would honor this ridiculous, manipulative, malicious, criminal intent hack over. It would be like going into a bank and erasing the name on an account and then putting your name on it and then getting a card and withdrawing all the money. I mean, that's the way I think of it as. And they've even figured out ways around that with the scar finger here. And they hide it all as energy. But it's all about this upgrade energy. Just heating your cows or driving your car is not enough. It's because it's based upon this game grid mentality, whereas I supply power to the game grid. My donation is captivity. The public vulnerable victim supplies battery power plugged into it, even though I'm not able to use my power because I might escape and protect myself. Self-defense doesn't apply in a ritual sacrifice, right? You just lay there and die. Self-defense does not apply when you're murdering somebody via ritual sacrifice, Jacob Valera, right? And therefore also teaching empathetic lessons to those, and I've got to be empathetic to those in the system, and so I'm handicapped to be empathetic. And they use me in a lot of different variable aspects of handicap and empathy. I mean, I am donated to a lot of people, and the donation really is a mercenary bribe, to be quite honest with you. And stalking. It all goes back to methods of stalking. They want to make it real hard on me as far as disorienting based upon the hacks, marks, scars. Well, there's this notion of marks and scars. They hate me. Obviously, the mob hates me. They are so dopehead proud. You know when you're on dope, you feel huge, invincible dopehead. You're taller than a Superman dopehead, but it ain't real. Well, they're trying to make it real, and that's why they're desperately addicted to the pusher. The pushers they pay are pushing me, and I supply energy and keys to the goodie room for the dope. Therefore, able to utilize the power. So the perceptions, the pride feeling of being on dope, then you realize, uh-oh, we got this guy. This is the reality. If they don't like reality, reality is the bill. They don't want the bill. They are so high and mighty, almighty high, but they don't want the bill. So they destroy the source and burn down the building in order to dine and dash. And it really is. So you've got so many angles, like I said, many factions of the mob. You got on one hand, you got energy, you got legal drugs, you got illegal drugs, which are playing me in the middle. So I'm stuck in the middle. See, legal drugs have locks and keys. I provide the power. They have this rank system who can access volatile chemicals, whereas I supply a lot. I have a feeling, I have a theory that my family is being divided and conquered based upon the precedences of pharmaceuticals. Therefore, because we are highly volatile chemicals, but we don't have doctoral degrees the ability to prescribe prescriptions, these chemical combinations. Therefore, we are not even allowed to access. So that's motive, in my estimation, to worship the system. Therefore, they are utilizing the transference. There's all sorts of loopholes being spun based upon other factions of rank and precedence. Rank and precedence, locks and keys. So, legal drugs lock me out, but I supply power as a slave. I'm a lab rat. See, that's where you get into this, and I want to understand, do I not have the right to understand what I give to? I give so much. I want to know what I give to. That's part of the reason why I am a ritual sacrifice forced into slavery. Because then slavery is a gray area where you could get away with a lot of, they don't like disclosure. The mystery, you got to hide under the halo mysteries. That's kind of why they'll run to the church as far as the mysteries or the trade secrets. So you've got all sorts of angles at play. And I know I need a haircut. The mullet is starting to look pretty righteous. But I just don't like going. I don't like going to the barbershop. I should be able to have somebody come and take care of it here. And that sort of thing. But, and plus I'm saving money as long as possible because I'm on a very fixed income, even though I pay billions and billions. the biggest chump in the history of the world. So, not to mention the whole Rogaine effect, that Upjohn. I wonder if Upjohn has to do with St. John the Baptist right here, because you have Xanax, and then I mean, what else? Well, they got bought by Pfizer. That's motive, though. That's motive. That's another reason they are desperate to keep this. You remember another funny, these are all synchronicity, connectivities of sparks of light in the sky. The devil's advocate, first of all, he has a case where the guy is trying to, and that the guy in the cellar hammers a nail through the tongue, so the opposing counsel can't talk. Well, they've done that to me, even though I'm the victim and the opposing counsel, but because of the precedence and scars and marks. Only lawyer I've ever really had was a public defender, because I've never had enough money to hire a lawyer. I've had a lot of friends that are lawyers, but I've never been able to hire a lawyer because I've always been so poor. And I really could use one. I could use a whole firm. Actually, I probably need a whole law firm, but I can't actually get one. And I'm not willing to go out and pay probably 40%, because the potential of $1 billion. I mean, it would be paying like $400 million. Whereas if I could get by probably paying 200 or 300, 400 or 500,000 rather than 400 million, if that makes any sense. Percentages of going in there. As far as, so I'm doing a lot of the legal research work myself, even though I still need I would like to hire a corporate lawyer. That's my motive, trying to make some money so I can form a corporation in order to hire some corporate lawyers to investigate. But, goes back to the whole John Grisham. There's a lot of truth in John Grisham to those that can see through the fog. Pelican Brief, there's a real truism to that, as far as there's some energy contracts at play here. And then, The Rainmaker with Matt Damon playing the Memphis lawyer. It's not The Firm with Mitchell McNear from Harvard and the Moroltos of Chicago, which in actuality I think is supposed to be Atlanta. That's their kind of jump ship on that scene. It's that, or Dallas, not really sure. I think it is Atlanta. There's the Moroltos, and Memphis being the hub there for the Pyramid Tigers. He is a lawyer for this guy, Donnie, who has leukemia. And it's not Leukemia. It's Keymia, because I got locked out and I'm going to die of exposure. Because I have to, if I could do this competently with structure, protecting myself wearing armor, but nope, it's got to be balls to the wall public. I'm going to probably die from exposing, like Lincoln did. I'll probably die like Lincoln. Because of that's another motive, is by forcing me into healthcare, government healthcare, the government would then therefore bury the case in order to provide healthcare for me, because of the potential of me dying. Wow, that's some smart rigmarole right there. Woo! Man, they are some smart cookies here in this palace. The moldy shack of Savannah, where I spent 2+ years doing, and I've done nothing. Been to a bar like 2 or 3 times. Never once been invited to anything. Actually, I got invited to go to see Lieutenant Dan Band in a free concert last year. One of the neighbors, and I had some neighbors a while back. So I mean, yeah, but still, I was dead broke, and that's handicap fare. This is really bizarre. Well, what's going on here, in fact, is the church isn't doing anything. They're not providing me any help, even though they should, because the mob, so the church is not doing anything. The mob is doing a lot of the dirty work, and it's just really suspect. My wallet is a global wallet, and they seem to be playing wallet swap here. Whereas I'm trying to manage my account, but because I am forced by my pimp handlers, master pimp handlers, to be empathetic to the system, to their Lord, their deities. See, my master pimp handlers have deities that they worship in certain factions. Even though they control my assets are global assets, a wallet of global assets. I'm trying to control my bank. I'm trying to manage my bank, but they don't want me to manage my assets so other people can swoop in and steal them from me. So I've got to be empathetic to their deities and the societal control mechanism situations. So I'm empathy. And it's like the irreverent and Entergy is Entergy, big company in New Orleans, one of the biggest left in Louisiana that hadn't been swallowed up because they wanted some gummy bears and they got invaded. And they're fat, like I said before, fat. They have no muscle control in the state because they decided to eat me. It's like that Plaza Tower at 1001 Howard Street, stripped skin to the bone, nothing left. Transferred everything out. Well, they thought they were transferred into Hibernia. Then Hibernia got there's some connection with my brother-in-law. I don't know if he's ex or brother-in-law of mine who has nephews of mine who father worked for Hibernia, but Hibernia got bought by Capital One. So I think they're transferring my assets into Capital One and into Shell and into Freeport McMoran and this Louisiana Street. Centerpoint Energy, I think, is more my sister. 1111 Louisiana Avenue, Centerpoint Energy, and there's a Centerpoint building in London on Oxford Street. There's a Centerpoint that's connected to the California Teachers Pension, which is the largest public pension fund in the country, in Chicago. So that's your connectivity there, and it deals with I think LaSalle management. But there's all these it's all based on this symbiotic connectivity, this match game, regardless of the legality of what's really going on with it. So public, they want to keep us public. They try to play the BW for the people card, reverend, the house of the Lord. They want to be able to go into the church at any time. So they want constant access to but it's really all about assets. This is all about being able to pickpocket assets. Them being, Lord, they're so high on all these drugs provided by the church. See, what they did was they got the church providing a lot of these drugs, and then they stack the deck to where they take me as a high value asset and then build on top of that. So they're even higher and higher and higher. I mean, they're really high, really fucking high. Way out there, Space Cadet high. Just dope to the max juice, the blood and all this stuff. That they try to play on one side as religious, but they're not pious. They're not reverent. They're greedy. They break every, then again, it goes back to me paying for being a wild child because they gave me a lot of rope to hang myself. And I wasn't that wild, to be quite honest with you. Comparatively, I was an alcoholic, but still. Literally paying trillions and trillions of dollars for a public school education that I never once had a good teacher. Never once had somebody try to tell me anything. So, but I still got to pay just because they got guns to my head. So, hey, that's how you get somebody to pay. Well, it goes into, like I said, these hacks. Like I said, there were things that happened that were these wildcatters that I never really thought there would be marks or scars. But they wanted me to change my name. The BLM, Bureau of Land Management, what they really wanted was the St. Bartholomew, because they really, really hate me. The mob hates that they have my entire life. So BLM is the alpha code for St. Bartholomew's based upon some international organization. So they wanted to erase me and put BLC, Big League Chew, so I'd be a beautician. So, and my sister turned into EEC, which is the European Economic Community or the European Energy Community, and they have given her a fucking, to be quite honest with you, I don't know how they're playing that. They're doing some crazy Dr. Mangala stuff. But it's all in the name of empathy, reverence, fair, I guess. I don't understand it. Like I said, we're kidnapped, plain and simple. And the problem is there a bunch of fucking nobody wildcatters that can make $1 billion, but me providing $1 billion cannot even make I can't even have $25,000 or $100,000 because it's got to be handicap fair because I got shot and I got to play it as it lies and protect the sacred wounds. Are you fucking kidding me? This is the biggest scam in the history of the world, literally. Like the Nazis, the Hitler used to talk about the big lie. This is just the biggest lie beyond any comprehension you could ever imagine. So you got the Reverend Black Card, the Reverends all wear black with their collars, the No Limit Black Card that they can make up stuff for me to be a Reverend Energy to. But the problem is Louisiana got screwed real bad. They wanted a cock. They did nothing. And they're getting screwed now. And the problem is they didn't want Louisiana to develop, and they just basically wanted like the Jews in Egypt as slaves for Pharaoh. That's basically what's going on. Anybody else around, can do anything. Literally anybody can do anything, but except, it's just beyond any sort of rational behavior. There's got to be motive, method, and motive. Method is victim, vulnerable, public, fair, JV, handicap. So it's all these marks and scars that are worshipped like the Holy Spirit, superseding genetics. Well, the body does not matter. It's what you wear. Their fashion, wardrobe, thin, paper. They worship them. That's why they worship vanity, the magazines, paper. Cash is king. Whoever's got control of it matters. So we've got these scars that were inflicted upon me. I'm going to go through a few of them. When I was in high school, and obviously they were surrounded by wildcatters. I was just one of the guys. I didn't really even have any clue as to who I was or what I did anything. Or, I was a space cadet, to be quite honest with you. And nobody ever tried to put me on any sort of path other than, my mother told me no a lot. And I was dead broke almost all the time. Had a bunch of crappy jobs. I worked at Little Caesars Pizza, Crazy Bread, and I understand the Crazy Bread. Little Caesars Pizza now, that's for sure. And used to wash windows and things like that for contractors, and I had jobs like that. Oh, one of the other things that I think really, there was a company in Louisiana that my father worked for in South Louisiana, and then it moved. When I moved out to, my father told me, don't move to San Angelo. My mother forced me, and I didn't understand. Nobody told me anything, but my father was right, because I should, by allowing me to go into public schools, has opened up a whole other can. That's given them access to. Texas wasn't a bad experience for me, except I'm paying a ton. Well, like I said, I think it was the Tomahawk shop. I think we were sent out there to get scalped and set up. I think it has a lot to do with Georgia was playing it, to be quite honest with you, it seemed. So I was set up. So there was a company, and I used to deliver meat for it. But I think it's like that, the whole thing. They can use mine, but I can't use yours, based upon certain principles. So, and I think that one of the principles is public schools, first of all, that I was going to. And now the debt. Public schools is transferred into debt. That's why we've got the lifelong paparazzi in the womb stalker. He's just an insider. He's just an inside plug. He's a plug. He accesses a lot of things, and people are worshiping that because he gives away all my junk. He gives away all my stuff. I've had that sign up there for over a year now. Nothing. I've asked for an editor. I've asked for help trying to figure. They won't even talk to me about anything except, it's insane. It's really one of the dumbest things in the history of the fucking world, literally. But they're in charge. They're allowed to be in charge because they give away all the assets through the Caldwell College, the Caldwell Zoo, the Wheaton, and the Doctors Associations and all this stuff. And he powers. My mother gives extra power. What they've done is they've superpowered the dope, the legal dope. So my mother gives the superpower that legal dope, and it's a high ranking above me. A nobody is above me and therefore it raises up anything that's above him. So therefore, that's why they worship this game grid, and we should be able to rise above it because we give so much, but we can't access enough. If I could build a castle with walls to protect myself from all of these, it's like I'm walking out vulnerable public victim. That's what it is. Public vulnerable victim. JV. That's what it's all about. Vulnerable victim public. And so they can access assets. So we sold a lot of meat, especially to nymphas. I used to drive trucks and deliver meat in Houston. But it seems that it's that same mentality. They will not, it's like, even though how much money has been made by Texas companies and energy companies in Louisiana? Probably multiple billions. But it's the precedent set because we're high value. So then, therefore, we can only eat our. It was kind of like Texas. We're not allowed to use their, but they use ours, but we're not allowed to use theirs based upon public schools. Even though we were mismanaged and sent over there because it was a bribe, it's seemingly a bribe from Georgia. The SEC is all involved. The SEC hates LSU, obviously, and LSU's too stupid to realize it. They just want to play ball, like the Bad News Bears. Just let them play, and they threw away trillions of dollars. And so now they needed Texas to do the dirty work as the muscle. Even though Texas could be my muscle and part of my wallet, but I'm not able to use it because captive. So the marks and scars. So we used to sell a lot of skirt steak. And that seems to be what it turned in. It's really strange how we were programmed because we're not allowed to eat anything, even though, I'm not allowed to leave the country, even though I've got assets all over the world, but I'm not allowed to use them because they're desperately addicted to and then Louisiana, I guess it's because of Louisiana Street. Well, Enron was on Louisiana Street, and Texas Chevron bought that. Chevron Texaco bought that, and then there's that Centerpoint Energy, like I said, which is suspect, and one of the Shell plazas is on Louisiana Street, and so that's their loophole, obviously, to supersede the state itself, and that turns it into validation because of the mass amounts of wealth, even though I'm a vulnerable public victim unable to protect myself because of the obsessive dopers that are addicted. And they've got to protect the holy sacred scams that are inflicted upon us because of these marks and scars. So it's like, Robert Louis Balfour Stevenson, the Balfour Rings, is based in Austin. Balfour was from Louisville, and he makes all these class rings and the composite yearbooks where all the pictures are the same size. So the rings are all about the gold rings, about like Robert Louis Balfour Stevenson. Died for age 44 in Villamia, Samoa. And in Samoa, they tattoo you. And what's happened to me is it's not visible tattoo, it's invisible tattoo in the marks and the scars that are placed upon me to where my body is sold for parts and distribute, so I am in a coma. That's where Bubble Boy comes into. And in Texas, what happened? Well, there was this Tri-High Y, was like a high school sorority that's affiliated with the YMCA, which is in Chicago, which I obviously give a lot to these days. So there was this girl I didn't really know at all who asked me, Kim Frost, to the dance, like 2 days before the dance. So I was like, sure. It was, I don't know, senior year, but we partied a lot. We had a lot of parties. I used to throw a lot of parties. And so it was no big deal. I didn't think anything of it, so there was no intimacy involved. And there was a guy that I used to play tennis with that I had known for a long time from way back when my other girlfriends, like RogerL. And we had been, I knew just about everybody, but we were okay friends. So we went to the dance with this girl, took the pictures, and ended up going to the party at this guy's house who was older. And the girl I was with ended up hooking up with this guy, Roger. No big deal, we didn't even hold hands or anything. We were just going out to a party. but the precedents were set, and I think it goes back to, it was obviously, well, there's something called Frost National Bank in Austin, or San Antonio, but they've got this big tower in Austin. And in 1985, on December 20th, 1985, Frost State Bank in Minnesota opened. And I can't remember the exact name of the town. But it was just one of these loophole marked scars precedences, like frosted flakes or frosting from a cake or cookies or anything like that. So anytime that I take or get anything from, that's the mark. I mean, it's so stupid. But the mob tattoos it. This tattooing precedent, the Balfour rings, tattoos me by me being a vulnerable victim, public, exposed, unable to protect myself. So these precedences are stampeded, trampled over me. A train track. I'm tied in the train tracks. They run the stampede precedents over me to where it seems normal and legitimate. And even though it's the stupidest thing in the world, but Frosted Flakes, so Tony the Tiger, that sort of mentality. They even had that 10 Ways to Lose a Girl, or 10 Ways to Lose a Guy with Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey. And it was all, they were talking about frosting jewelry. But I mean, the reality of it is, frostbite, I guess. I mean, it's just stupid. But it's that same sort of mentality of being in the game group. Like I said, it's a bizarre scenario. I mean, it was so bizarre because in high school, everybody hooks up with everybody. It's just partying constantly and all that sort of thing. So you never think anything of it or anything about it. But the precedents are set. It probably wouldn't affect a normal person. Who cares? Nobody would care. Nobody would even think about it. The system would not care. They just are sorted into their lot in life. Whereas me, worth billions of dollars, what they're trying to do is justify it. So that would be a wildcatter. Even though, like I said, I didn't even know the girl more than like a week. And so who would care, really? I mean, honestly, it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, I guess it was embarrassing to a degree, but I mean, honestly, it didn't bother me all that much. So, but that sort of precedence is set. But it was affiliated with a YMC or YWCA event, and I think it goes into, they were transferring the Mississippi River. That's where you get into the Frost Bank and the headwaters of the Mississippi and Minnesota, into Austin. And it's an air conditioning unit. But it's just stupid things like that that set precedences, then are tattooed upon me because I am the vulnerable victim of what's going on in that situation. So, yeah, the public exposure is just a bizarre scene. These people, the mob is so desperate to keep access to me that I am unable to protect myself. That is motive. I mean, that's what you got to look for. It's motive and method. The method is vulnerable victim. The lock is a method and the motive is forgery. They're trying, and then validation of forgery. It's a lock game distribution. And then misinterpretation, this horrific thing. And obviously I was set up to be massacred, to say the least, slaughtered. And it goes back, it's several things. Like I said, my entire life, this misinterpretation of the marks and the scars is the Mississippi misspelled misinterpretation. I think they want me to beg to change my name to be Big Leg Chew or something like that. Maybe I'll say Big Leg Chew, which is insane, stupid. But this is how these crazy dopers think. They don't know. I mean, you got to understand the altered reality, altered states is like a sensory deprivation chamber, which I'm in, creates an hallucinatory state of cabin fever based upon my inability and fury of escape creates a hallucinatory state of phantasmagoria. But then again, those that are body snatchers are riding on my shoulders are desperately addicted to the benefits, the fringe benefits that are provided through utilization of the energy I provide, which is a higher. It raises their level. It's not high heel platform shoes sort of mentality. So the marks and scars arsenal upon me. And it also seems that I'll be honest with you, the idols are not very bright. I mean, they could have had so much more, but they played the hand that was dealt. They were inability to see. I think it goes back to the depth perception, inability to see the cost and reality. Because you got to realize the party that's going on now is going to cost a ton in the future, and they're going to look to those who are causing the party, and a lot of it's this idle mentality, and so they're going to have to, that's why the healthcare is so important. That's why they're right now trying to, the global economy is literally being destroyed for healthcare for those that have been involved in this party for so long. And they've got me providing the superpower drugs and the superpower healthcare, even though I'm victim vulnerable method. And the motive is maintaining control of the wallet and maintaining control of the energy of the dope. So the motive of the public is extraction of utilization. And this game precedence programming goes back to the fact, like one day I was windsurfing I was with a friend who had a windsurfer, and we were on LSU Beach, and only time I've ever windsurfed. So with the wind, I kind of did it all right. I still wasn't very good. Then I ended up couldn't jive worth a darn, so I had to paddle back in, got sunburnt, all this sort of stuff. But that was the only time I have ever windsurfed. That sets the precedent. And since it's that sort of mentality. Or if I play checkers or if I play a game, the level to which I rank on the game therefore programs my life. Regardless, because that's where you get into this notoriety of the pooled assets or the pooled energy. Energy converts into assets. I provide raw energy by being a high value. That's where you get into the manipulation of the variable values that I would like to audit based upon my contribution. The energy, therefore, that I provide, legitimizing the game pool of grid of assets and distribution based upon the rank built upon the game ability, is therefore common. So I play checkers on my computer, or I play chess, or I play backgammon. So therefore, that game itself does that program my life? Or when I was years ago, I had friends and we wanted to play baseball. It was just something we were just out of college, and so there was this league that opened up, the National Adult Baseball League, and so I went to the meetings, and I was the manager of a team. I had 5 or 6 of my friends that I knew were playing. We ended up going to the draft, but the precedent set, and I'm not, it was strictly entertainment fun to me. It was called semi-pro in some aspects, but we paid. We had to pay to play. That's a precedence marks right there to set for me to pay to play, and I pay a ton. So then we had a draft, and you had to draft. If you went to the draft, you had to draft, and we needed a few players, and so I ended up getting this guy who had the initials JV. There we go back into the JV. He was one of the couldn't catch, couldn't throw, couldn't bat, pretty bad. So did that my empathy reverence to the St. Francis of Assisi mentality, where you got to respect everything, give respect to everything. My empathy reverence to the lowest common denominator, which is motive, in my estimation. They're trying to hide under these halos or these umbrellas of freedom of religion. See, they're hide under various things. In one aspect, they'll hide under the umbrella of a trade secret trademark. And another aspect, another angle, they'll hide under the hide under the halo umbrella of energy, or they'll hide under the halo umbrella of pharmaceuticals, or they'll hide under the halo of reverential empathy. So they can play. The mob plays a lot of face card variations. So we practiced. We had a great time. We ended up paying a few $100s. I did. I was the manager and I played first base, and I was, I could hit singles, that sort of thing. It wasn't great. Didn't have real good hand-eye coordination. It was fun. It was like an adult softball league. But me, it affects because the precedence was set. So anybody that could pitch, and you pitch a deal, the art of pitching a deal, which I'm not allowed to. So therefore, they've got to figure a way. Therefore, I'm not even allowed in the door because I am better than my ability. I used to pitch batting practice. That's all I did. I could pretty accurate with it. Could pitch batting practice, get it over the plate, not very fast, but good practice for that. The precedence of how hard I threw the ball, measured as a marked scar, ranked against every other player who could have ever pitched a baseball. I was probably way down there. Probably wasn't even competing in the most high school levels because it was batting practice. But hey, still, it doesn't matter. It was a regulation baseball and a regulation glove and a regulation hat. That's the loophole mentality of it. So the rank that was provided through this and the precedence that was set, not to mention this guy, I feel bad. And he really wasn't very good. The JV, and that goes back into the JV. So did we play a whole Freaky Friday trade in places where I had to be empathy because of the reverence of my, say, Jean Vianney and junior varsity golf precedence sets? See, what it is it's a pool, but a lot of different things access this pool. But then I only am judged on one certain criteria, even though I provide for a whole big super pool of assets. So, was I then programmed to be as bad? Was that one of the program hacks the marks and scars upon me? So where the guy couldn't catch a fly ball, literally could not catch a fly ball. And I wasn't good. I'm good. I was adequate. I would say very average. But I could play first base, I could catch when they threw it to me, or I could scoop up a grounder, that sort of thing. And I could hit singles if I could get it through the infield. In batting practice, I could hit it kind of far, but, we got it. So, but the problem was, I think I actually get this feeling that the guy could not even make contact with a ball. And he couldn't catch, and he really couldn't throw very good. So we put him in right field for a few innings or so. But did they switch? That's the reverence that was inflicted upon me by the mob in order to motive. That's motive and method. That's method and motive based upon the marks and the scars of the Mississippi misspell mentality. There are all sorts of these things that are relegated through life. That's why probably the best thing I do is just skiing. Even though I'm not that great at skiing, my best ability is just to ski with good style. I skied a lot. I'm a pretty darn good skier now because I can ski on. I'm not real good on the moguls. I'm kidding. I do them, but I'm good on just blues. As far as being a good average skier. And but I think they don't let me do what I'm good at, that sort of mentality. Or they figure loopholes in the system to where I'm not able to utilize that in order to. It's all about being controlled. Vulnerable victim Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton is what it's all about. That's why they want to get me the droopy dog trash bags under the eyes. The left, it's just the most insane thing you could ever imagine. Beyond any comprehension of insanity. And there's different reverential donations. They donate me like certain factions. Like I think in Aspen, I was donated by the Cougars and their daughters who were teaching their daughters how to hunt. And so they were skinning me to make themselves legitimate wildlife cougars, even though they're by distributing my assets. But I think they had worked together with the beautician cause. I was their beautician by being and now, see, the thing is also, I value less than it because of the Omega hack. I am valued the least. Even though I pay the most, I am placed as I value the least. And they've got to justify it. So therefore, if somebody if somebody screws me over and doesn't represent properly, then I have to pay by being worse. But like when I got Baton Rouge screwed me really bad, so then New Orleans had to screw me to be their comrade in screw and arm mentality. Or if somebody screwed, like when I left Aspen, Savannah, in order to beautician and beautify them, had to screw me worse, make it worse on me to beautify these other comrades in arms. So that I pay, it keeps getting lower and lower and lower and lower because now Savannah screwed up really fucking bad. I mean, I don't know how it can get much worse than living in a mold. I mean, I am on a pretty street, even though my wallet's been stolen, but I did nothing. So it's got to get worse and worse and worse and worse to beautify those that screwed me because they're so goddamn smart and valuable. I mean, it's just the dumbest scam you could ever. It's a pyramid scam. It's like a Mary Kay Cosmetics scam of burying the body. Well, it is. It's burying the body. That's all it is. And so the Louis Vuitton, the JV, that's they figured ways around it. So then one of the ones today, David Farr. And I mean, it's the symbiotic match game based upon IBM Rochester, New York, IBM Rochester, Minnesota, and the Fordham. I think Fordham is a big deal into that. So, but with me, it's BMX, or it's definitely, or ABM. ABM is a janitorial service. And because at one time in my life, I used to have to sweep or clean up or stuff like that. If I ever did it once, that sets the precedent that I can have to do it again. Therefore, if it's valid. I worked at a company for my father where I used to have to clean up when I was 13 or 14 years old. But that's how they cajole. It's cajoling. The cajoled precedence is to misinterpret in order to screw me. That's method and motive, Eminem. And so, therefore, it's ABM, which is a New York-based company that provides janitorial services to SCAD. So, they therefore I know that's the ABM, because I did good in school. I had like 6 or 7 semesters with 18 or more hours with 3.5 or above in business school with A's. I got a lot of A's. So my A's are going to be janitorial service, of course. Now that's smart screwing there. That's a loophole. So it's all these cajoled precedences and marks in order to justify, even though I'm not allowed, like I said, I matter the least, even though I pay the most, because they've stolen my wallet, and they've stolen my identity, and they've stolen my body, so they don't really give a fuck. They're burying the bodies. So how do they bury the bodies? They just bury me lower and lower and lower and lower, because they've already stolen my wallet. They're utilizing my family, which I'm not able to use because of locks and things like that. And then spin doctors make stuff up based upon all sorts of things. So there was when I was working at Central National Bank for one summer in high school, I used to have to shred a lot of documents. And we used to it'd get clogged up, and we'd have to reach in and pull them out. One day I reached in, and I wasn't paying much attention, and the thing came on, and I ended up cutting my finger real bad. And the guy that married my mother ended up being the surgeon who repaired my finger, the scars on my trigger finger. This was after I only shot at one deer out in Texas, and it missed. I mean, it was an 80-yard shot. It was like an 8-point buck, real easy shot. And I am a good shot. I'd shot a lot with pellet guns and 22s, and I've shot a lot. So, I mean, I was dead on. There was no way. And I missed. It just ran off. It was a 243 at 80 yards. I mean, it was with a scope, easy shot. So we shot the gun later, and the scope had a floating thing in it. It was like off 32 inches. We shot at a target and ended up hitting 32 inches away. So the scope was broken. So that's why, as the only shot, and I think I paid for even shooting at a Texas deer there. The precedence is set, though, that I missed the buck. That's a precedence mark. So anything I shoot at, being Louis, I'll miss. That's a precedence that's set. So that's the only. And so my trigger finger ended up getting repaired by the doctor that was married to my mother now. And so all these scars, I mean, it was a lot of scars. If you ever see my finger, it was completely just demolished. And I mean, he did a good job. And I ended up getting a workman's comp check for like $1,500. And of course, you know how horrifically I was mismanaged, so I signed it, didn't think anything of it. But the precedence that was set was my finger is only worth $1,500, or that was the precedent scars that were set working at a bank, doing the paper shredding, doing all the crap work, making all, I was making minimum wage at a bank, at a terrible job, pulling. It was back when banks had hard copy files of accounts and doing all this stuff. It was a terrible job. Well, it was terrible. It was boring. But so that's a precedence there because of the marks and scars and the marriage of the doctor that did it. So that's right there. That makes me, that's my pace, my station in life, because they are usurping my body in order to screw me, and therefore they'll lock me out. They taken my body or my wallet and they give me this set amount, and they've got these arsenal of scars. I honestly think it goes back to this Chinese bandits, the Orange Crush, the Purple People Eaters, the Monsters of the Midway, these ferocious defenses. The mob really did, and it goes back to Fresh Prince or Utah Jazz, the New Orleans Jazz, Pistol Pete Maravich, M-A-R, Maravich Assembly Center. That's M-A-R-M-A-R-X. That's kind of close there. So the the New Orleans Jazz moved to Utah, where there is polygamy in Mormons. My grandmother had a sister, Elizabeth Smith, in Utah, Salt Lake City. And she also had family. We met some cousins from Buffalo, and that's probably, that sort of thing. But the precedence was set, especially then when Will Smith did the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Jazzy Jeff. That was like a heat-seeking missile. So it goes back to when I got knocked down by that kid on a bike and it hurt my head, and that was a precedent set because those girls that I was talking to used to chase us. It was like one of those things. It was strange. It was a game sort of mentality. We'd run and hide, and they'd chase us, and they were trying to kiss us as a little, that sort of thing. And they never did. Before they did, I got smashed in the head, that sort of thing. So the precedence that was set, though, therefore, is any girls that chase us, I get knocked down. And the mob tattooed that onto me. And that's one that's one of their biggest arsenal weapons. Because me being true blood, that's where you get into the Prince Charming. Charmin and Charming. Chop off the G, and you got a whole bunch of cash paper, especially when the Omega thing, the G being my head. So they chop off the G, being my family, being in Georgia here, and there's a lot of cash, and it's a gamble, Procter & Gamble, or Duracell batteries, or any of those. The Cincinnati Bearcats, and being a Cincinnati Reds and Cincinnati Bengals company, but they manipulated anything. That was one of the big precedents that was set. And then again, it goes back to the worship of golf is God Almighty. The rules of golf, because handicapping, play it as it lies, and winner rule play it as it lies. Handicapping, and I played a lot of public courses and private, but my membership was I was under my parents' membership. I'm never able to own anything on my own. It's always got to be other people owning it for me. I've always got to be using somebody else's, because vulnerable victim motive method. Vulnerable victim motive method. That's what it's all about in order to drill. So, when I worked at Ben & Jerry, they were trying to justify why Baton Rouge fucked up so bad. Louisiana screwed up so bad because if they would have given, I mean, I could never get, if I would have got a job at Ben & Jerry, like I had at Ben & Jerry's, managing an ice cream store right out of college, my life would have been totally different. But they wanted me to be a Playboy party, and because of that, but they wanted me to be a little league, local, intramural beer league Playboy party because they didn't want me to be a big leaguer. It didn't seem. So it was like the president, even though I'm working in a restaurant and people came to me to order stuff, I still get knocked down. I never had a date once working of anybody I met the entire time. But it's that same sort of mentality. I mean, it seems so far-fetched, but there seems to be so much reality. It's that, well, my self-esteem was just hammered and hammered and hammered. What they're trying to do, that's where they're bribing the idols with. The idols have people chasing them and chasing them and chasing them and chasing them. No big deal, you know, that sort of mentality. But it's the Orange Crush mentality of that really, really hate the fact that this defense that they play, that I just get massacred. And I have no protection at all. I mean, they've actually got people that are the Rock'em Sock'em robots in the wound paparazzi because incompetent mismanagement, inability to recognize, because I'm trying to turn any of this tangible proof in order to validate it. So it's all based upon marks and scars, any of that sort of mentality. And interpretation, it's always the worst misinterpretation in order to be played or used. My interpretation of anything I do, or interpretation of any of these marks or scars, are then therefore to benefit others at my expense, whereas it's poor judgment because it's costing me tons. And the inability to protect myself seems to be the notoriety. So, it's just so bizarre how I'm forced and vulnerable, like I said, a known commodity worth a lot of raw energy to be converted. And energy can be made into a lot of different things. High value energy that can be utilized by different variations. And misinterpretations. I used to, and probably one of them, I used to eat a lot of chips and salsa. I like chips and salsa. That is not a wager. I bet. I used to play cards occasionally with friends, $20 here and there. The precedences that are set in a wager, though, are, just ridiculous. I used to bet on football one season long ago. I used to bet $20 a week on one game. I won like 6 or 7 games in a row. Then I bet on the Super Bowl $50, I think, and I lost. And I never bet again. And I went to a casino once in Las Vegas, the Luxor. I walked around and looked at them all, but I didn't have I was kind of nervous about what I was going to do. I ended up spending $50. That was it. And I've never had enough money to gamble, to be quite honest with you. It's not one of my addictions. But if you eat chips and salsa, the bookies will find a way to screw you by misinterpreting that as a wager. Or if you wear colors, or if something that's a wager, they can make stuff up in order. It's all about that justification math that they're trying to make themselves seem real, or it's this crooked math that's utilizing in order to justify the distribution of energy and the conversion of assets. And like I said, all these casinos, what is the precedence of casino houses in Louisiana controlling the games? I want to know. That's another reason Louisiana is dead. Louisiana fucked up so bad you can't even imagine. It is so bad. It's just terrible. So far, well, they got played in my estimation. Louisiana got played by Texas and Georgia. They were They were playing Louis Marks Toys, Rock'em Sock'em Robots with Louisiana and Mississippi, in my estimation. While they were getting fat and getting stronger, Louisiana was just sitting there cockfighting with Mississippi, in my estimation. And Nobody ever did anything about it. Nobody ever tried. They always wanted us to be. They had this bullshit misinterpretation of a church. So anybody can have access to any of the assets or anything like that, which is a sham. I mean, total sham. I mean, there's no reverence or piety. I mean, there's certain factions. Well, what it is, you got a certain group that are reverent and pious, but then you've got all the demon deacons and all the, the realms of demons that are doing the dirty work that are getting, I mean, so the reverent and pious is a small percentage compared to, but they do nothing to help me stop all the other realms, because I've got to be empathetic, because I used to listen to rock and roll music, and I used to drink beer and, all that sort of stuff. So the weapons that are utilized are the law as a weapon against me, the law, in order to justify the extraction of wealth. So my assets, which I'm not able to control, would be overseas, but I am not allowed to leave the country. For some reason, they are desperately addicted stalkers, kidnapper, keeping me here. I want to leave the country. I want to go. I like to travel. Not allowed. I don't get to do anything I like to because I'm being punished for some odd reason. Still, I mean, they're ritual sacrifice cannibals sort of mentality. So I'd like to move. I'd like to leave. I'd like to go travel. I paid a ton for going to Europe. I was never supposed to go over there because they didn't want to see what I was missing. See, if you see what you were missing, then, oh hell, then you got to look at what you're getting. So that's when they really castrated me, just completely cut me off. They just beat the ever-living dog shit out of me. And now making me wait until, we're talking about they're dope fiends. You got to understand. They don't even know they're dope fiends because they're being drugged by the energy and the things they're using. It's designer drugs. The things they wear, the material they use, the chemicals in their food. They're designer drugs that alter the altered state of reality to where they're high and mighty and they don't even realize it. So the misinterpretation, I hung up a few new pictures. This was in the Town and Country, the graph, butterfly with the diamond time. On the back of it are a bunch of Dallas museums. Of course, my entire life is just wasted. Other people are getting rich. I got nothing. And this goes back to worst interpretation. I do a lot of work as far as tributes, I've got a picture of John Lennon. I did a lot of work into his sort of working class. I did a whole bunch of work into working class hero to understand to a degree. But I didn't want to live it, but I just wanted to be able to write the characters. I was developing character depth, trying to develop character depth through understanding. But I didn't want to spend 10 years wasting the prime of my life. Nobody would ask me, of course. I'm not allowed. Nobody's allowed to talk about any of this bullshit. It's all got to be mental. Either smart aliens or stupid animals. We'll take your pick. So I got a picture there that was kind of a tribute to Hemingway and Hunter S. Thompson, or it was Hemingway because Hunter S. Thompson had killed himself when I did this picture. But there's a guy hiding in the couch, and it was when I lived. I was just had no idea what I was gonna do. Dead broke as always, and living on on the good graces of my friends who I was burning the bridges of at the time because I couldn't get any competent jobs because I was being alienated, buried deep because they were trying to bury my body because they wanted to prove they want me to feel what they feel for some stupid reason. No matter how much it costs. Now, to show how stupid this is, they literally committed suicide to make me feel how they feel. Even though, they shrunk me down to where I can't even get up anymore, that sort of mentality. Lost trillions of dollars to make me empathetic, to be addicted to the reliant need or something like that. So it's got this guy blowing his brains out. That is not my intent. See, that goes back to the interpretation. It was kind of a picture about, and it's kind of what's happened as far as me just spewing everything all over the internet. by not being able to get anything accomplished or done, or the multi-dimensions of what's going on. There's a lot of dimensions to, and the misinterpretation based upon, of course, the tattoo is God of the almighty world, Omega, and that the high fructose corn syrup, corn chip pyramid scheme. So, I mean, of course, you understand what line item veto would be. If somebody, you understand what a whale or a VIP is. If somebody, instead they decided to kill the whale. They wanted to whale hunt and use me for cosmetics and for heating oil and all this, and blubber and that sort of stuff. They decided to kill the whale. Savannah's even got a band called Whaleboat now. So they decided to kill the whale rather than giving me any good treatment. They thought they were going to bribe a favor with Aspen because of Gulfstream. The connection with Aspen and the Crown family of General Dynamics is General Dynamics owns Gulfstream. Worst thing they could have done. I really want to know what the Crown family knows about all this. This is just, I mean, I got screwed by their pets in Aspen. I was passed around and beat into the ground, hammered in the head. Oh, I mean, it was just, I mean, literally, I got mugged. I got knocked in the head and just beat down. I mean, and it was probably one of the best things that, I mean, to be honest with you, how bad my life has been, it was one of the, I wouldn't say best, but it was better than New Orleans treated me, to be quite honest with you. It was better than Baton Rouge treated me at the end. And still, I was getting mugged. I mean, that's how bad. And I got basically just locked into a box here to die in Savannah and wait till I get gray hair. They want some gravy to handicap. That's that bullshit, retarded criminal intent. Elba Island natural gas over here, liquefied natural gas that I provide the superpower juice, or this bullshit empathy, reverence. I mean, it's just some of the dumbest strategy you could ever imagine. And so, I mean, I can't even do anything without them inflicting. They take what the worst is. So I've got to, all I can draw are like, they wanted to turn me into a big fucking pansy pussy that can only draw sweet little flowers because I'm not tough enough for a big bad rock and roll because the mob's got to be tough enough. A mob, the reason it is because they don't, I mean, there's no real value in it. So the precedence is, it doesn't matter. I mean, anybody can walk down the street and do anything, and it doesn't really matter. I'm being stalked. Victim, method, and motive. Vulnerable, victim, method, and motive because I'm paying with my wallet and energy. So I'm being stalked. So I matter. So therefore I pay. But most people, the precedences and marks, they figure ways out of it. But I'm not allowed to because I pay too much. So, what's the answer? Not right sure, to be quite honest with you. I really don't know. It goes back to envy and hate and a lot of different scams. Oceans 11, 12, 13, there's a lot of different, I mean, Oceans 11, 12, 13, you had some legitimate angles, you had illegitimate angles, and all sorts of different things, but they're playing the victim. I'm the chump victim, the mark that's getting screwed, based upon this Louis Vuitton and Jacob Valero, Jean Vianney infliction, regardless of that's where they're trying to play into the legality of the church. It really is. So these wildcatters are able to use my wallet. Anybody can use my wallet, but I can't because I'm locked out of it because of Louis Vuitton. Literally. I mean, do you know if this went to court, the criminal angle, I mean, that's why it's all done in shadow aspects and things like that. But I am a vulnerable victim held as captivity, being tattooed, he died, being tattooed with these precedences and marks in order to distribute energy, assets, and sort of mentality. And it's based upon envy or hate or what. I don't really care. Like I said, I'm just trying to get my life back, my family put together, get us out of the woods, and salvage what's left. I mean, if there's anything left or what's going on. So, it really is beyond any comprehension. So, that'll be it for today.